Hello, everyone. I'm John O'Loughlin. Welcome to McDuff Lives and welcome back, Marcia Keith. It's been a little while. I'm glad to have you back.
Yay, it's nice to be back. I feel like I've been gone forever.
It does seem that way. So I really enjoy our Friday morning chats, and we always enjoy if folks want to make comments or ask questions on the Rumble chat. The Rumble channel is called McDuff Lives, all one word. We can also see your comments if you comment on YouTube or Twitter. However, usually there's more action on the Rumble channel. And of course, I want you to subscribe to that by following. Just hit the follow button so we can increase our reach at Rumble. And with that, what's on everybody's mind? Anybody got anything they want to talk about? I'll tell you, to me, oh, Marcia, you are able to control the chat today?
Well, we'll share. How's that?
Well, let's just go ahead and get started then.
Okay. Well, I just thought we would jump in with a greeting from Jay Uramilli.
Yeah. Hey, Jay, or Jera Millie. I'm still not quite sure. Jera Millie. Welcome and thank you for checking in. April 11th. Wow. So,
Wow. Yeah. Doesn't feel like it, does it?
no, April is going by so fast.
Well, not only that, it feels like fall out there. It feels like October. Where's spring? Come back, spring.
Oh, but we're getting tons of rain this weekend.
That's true.
And the flowers is Riz.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. April showers bring April flowers.
Yeah.
Yeah. But it's going to be a good day to curl up and, I don't know, do some Netflix binging. Escape from all this craziness.
Brightmore Dinosaurs here with a comment. Robert F. Kennedy Jr. said Thursday during a meeting of President Donald Trump's cabinet that he expects the government will soon know the cause of skyrocketing autism. Well, he said by September. He said by September we will know the cause of autism. He's going to work real hard on it. It's interesting that he, having been the founder, I guess, of Children's Health Defense, finds himself on the opposite side of Children's Health Defense with regard to the MMR vaccines. And, it's really is puzzling a lot of us and concerning us, that there's something that we don't know about Bobby that is causing him to go against the science and supports the continuation of these MMR shots. So, our all of the people that have been put in the cabinet in the spotlight as a result of President Trump's election are all starting to have a little bit of shakiness to them, and especially Donald Trump himself, who's really taken a lot of criticism for his tariff policy. But a lot of it can also just be the power of the deep state and their media control to focus attacks exactly where they can do the most harm. Nevertheless, it seems to be a matter of principle to me that once the science says you need to stop doing something, that you stop doing it, to parents and babies. And
that's not how it works. Then if once the science says you need to stop doing something, then you need to study it further to figure out why it's doing whatever it is it's doing, and what little element in this bigger element is the problem, so that we can narrow it down to the tiniest little cause and continue studying it until we have studied it to death.
That is absolutely right. You hit the nail on the head. And it's emphasized by a post that I saw yesterday on X about Elon Musk's rocketry and how the attitude at SpaceX is, hey, they're unmanned rockets. Who cares? So they set them up. they haven't done all the studies of the studies of the studies of the studies that NASA would do with a big pile of bales of paper with studies of what will happen if X, Y, Z, or Q happens. Well, they just say, screw it, let's just launch the thing and see what happens.
Right.
So,
Right.
so they launch it, and it blows up, and like the world is like, oh, look how silly that is. But the method in the apparent madness is that, hey, we're getting it done fast, and who cares? You blow up a rocket, we, obviously have planned to blow up plenty of rockets.
Right. But here's the difference there. If you blow up a rocket, you got to go back and study why the rocket blew up before you can use that technology for, I don't want to say manned space flight. What's another word that I can use? Human to space flight. Before you can use that technology to send people into space, you got to figure out why it blew up. But here's the thing. If you find out that and see, I keep seeing this phrase that makes me crazy. Correlation is not causation. No, it's not. However, correlation is indeed correlation. There is a relationship there, and let's make sure we can understand the relationship before we continue doing this thing. So if you blow up a rocket, you got to keep studying it in order to be able to not blow it up the next time when there's people aboard. But if you give a kid this vaccine and the kid develops autism, or if you give people animal protein and people develop cancer, then you stop giving it to them, period. You don't have to wait until you understand why it gave them cancer or why it gave them autism before you stop doing it.
I couldn't have said it better, and that's the insanity that we're looking at, and that's exactly what my actual comment was on that report, was that, okay, that looks like the way that they treat their vaccine development. It's the same thing. They just blow it up, and that now we can see, that we've got this problem with myocarditis, or we've got this other problem with this or that, or contamination, and they say, okay, now we're going to fix it, and they fix it, of course, until the next surprise event happens that nobody could possibly have planned for, which happens to be coinciding with a study of that very possibility in a Johns Hopkins like setting with all the top executives of pharma.
You've lost me now.
I'm just saying that they pretend that they don't see the next one coming, but they're all really aware,
right?
What's going on.
Well, you got to take correlation seriously, and when it comes to these vaccines, if there is a correlation, then stop it.
That's a beautiful point, because correlation, nobody thinks of it that way. I never thought of it that way, to say, if something follows something and it's bad, maybe you should stop it.
Right.
Without trying to figure out exactly why it's bad. But this is what I try to put together. You did it so well. The idea that there is a whole body of science and bureaucracy and government officials out there that understand that the rockets are going to blow up. And they say, well, we're going to do it anyway, because we need to do it for, quote, humanity, because humanity, needs to be strong and have, be able to fight off disease. And so we have to just go ahead and run these, what are really just tests.
Right.
And they do it. And that's because they have this mentality that
we're expendable.
That it's up to humanity and the elite of humanity to save humanity.
Right.
And if they don't do it, then humanity's going to descend into chaos. So that somehow they buy that logic, which is so awful.
Right.
But they
Well,
do, millions of them.
it's similar to what we were talking about last night about food additives, that in this country we have this attitude that food additives will be allowed, they'll be considered safe in our food until proven otherwise. And it's the same thing with what we are talking about here with the vaccines, is that until we have proven what the causation is, we're just going to keep doing what we're doing, even though there is a correlation. We've got to prove it first before we acknowledge that there is something happening.
And that just points me right back to Adam Finnegan's book, The Sleeper Agent, and to realize that there are people out there that are doing this intentionally, and they not only do they not care that some people might die or become disabled for life, that is actually what they've been working on all the time, is to see how they can do that.
Yeah. That's so sad.
Yeah.
It's very sad. It's very depressing. Too much depressing news.
Well, let's get back to Jeremilli, who says, that could be my first girlfriend was from El Salvador. And she said, she pronounced it like that.
Interesting. Going back to how you would say, Yeramili, because that's how you would say it.
Trump said the cause of autism rise, quote, could be a shot, unquote. Isn't it interesting how he does that? He slips things in here and there that lets you know that he's not unaware of our concerns.
I never thought I was going to say this, but I'm going to say it. I think he's smarter than he pretends to be.
Oh, no. You mean all the liberals have been fooled? Oh, and the progressives. Oh, no. Because
sometimes he plays the clown.
Yeah.
And I think, and then he slips in something like that to let those in the know that he's not a clown. He knows what he's doing. Now, I don't always agree with what he's doing, but he knows.
Brightmore Dinosaur. George Webb's work on the origin of COVID at the Wuhan military games has been validated both by released DoD document and report today that CIA also tracked the bioweapon. Wow, I hadn't seen that.
I'd love to see some of those reports.
You know what, man? We were there when this whole thing opened up, and George was all over the Wuhan military games. And geez, that was 5 years ago? No, 4. Yeah, 5 years ago.
Yeah.
Right. And I am, congratulations to George and to everybody that's worked with George, because that has proven to be the case. And I think it's going to be very, very interesting to see, who's really responsible. Why was the DoD, why was the military doing this,
Right.
And it has something to do with actual biological warfare, because there's the old sword and shield of biological warfare is that you want to be able to protect yourself if you're going to launch something against somebody else. So that kind of testing makes sense in a military capacity. How George figured all that out, I don't think we'll ever know, but he has a sense for this. It's really amazing. So
yes, he does.
Congratulations, George Webb and friends. And all the Ospreys,
Yeah.
Because that was the beginning, I think. We began the Osprey community in July of 2019 at the very first charrette out in Annapolis and on the Chester River, and taking the bus tour of Baltimore with Mark Kulak. That was
a great one. That really was.
Yeah,
that was fun.
And Tara, the great Tara Starr sang a solo at the dinner. Remember?
Yep.
Yeah. So we'll we miss our Osprey friends very much, and I'm not going to do anything this June the 6th for my dad's anniversary of his passing on June the 6th of 71. But we'll do something next year in 2026. So go ahead and mark your calendars, because we're gonna put some planning into it and
that'll be fun.
Make a nice event.
Also, our 20th anniversary.
Our 20th anniversary,
in 2026.
Yeah.
Yeah, we can celebrate it all at once.
And celebrating health, I'm just so fortunate that I've been able to learn all of this stuff from the community that I have online, with our good friends, Protecting the Nest ladies, Kathy Sue, and the people that got together and sent me a great big old supply of fenbendazole that I'm still only about halfway through. And I mean, just terrific people. I was scared to take it,
Oh, yeah.
I was really, really worried about it. And then we had to figure out how to make it useful in the body by, they said, put it on cottage cheese so that it somehow can get through the digestive process into the bloodstream. But, it turns out I think it works anyway, because I never really fooled with that too much after the first month or so. I just, go ahead and took the powder and consumed it however I wanted to. But the good news is, that up to now, my cancer is in remission, and it is a miracle.
Yes, it is. Yes, it is.
And there's our friend Polly checking in from the Netherlands. I think she's in Amsterdam. Love to get back to Amsterdam, wouldn't you?
It's been too long. I was trying to think about the other day, trying to remember when was the last time we were in Amsterdam. I think it's been 10 years. We stopped in Amsterdam on our way back from Italy the summer of 2016 when we spent those 3 weeks in Greve.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't think we've been back to Amsterdam since then.
Yeah.
Yeah. I just remember that was the time that we sat in Vondel Park and you sketched the ducks, that we were sitting at the pond. It was like 10 o'clock at night, but it was still light outside and the ducks in the pond. And yeah, love Amsterdam.
Yeah, the Vondel Park is, what's amazing about the Vondel Park is the dogs.
Mm-hmm.
The people, they run, they walk their dogs. The dogs are not on a leash, but they're in complete command of those dogs.
Yep.
They're not, the dogs aren't spooked by strangers or anything. They're completely, and
the same thing in restaurants. People go into restaurants with their dogs, and the dogs sit very patiently and quietly and obediently by their owners at the table or under the table, and they don't bother anybody, don't bother each other. Yeah.
Oh, back to the dark stuff. Brightmoor. Darkmoor Dinosaur says, more satanic worship for Elon is coming to Austin. A giant sculpture of Elon. Oh no. And as a goat riding a rocket created as a gift to a vendor. Okay.
Okay.
Yeah.
We should go to Austin someday.
I know.
That's another place.
Yeah.
Oh, sorry. I get sidetracked.
Well, I've never been to Texas at all, so.
Not of any Texas?
No, none of it. No.
Really?
Yeah.
How did I not know that?
Yeah, I know, you being from Texas.
Yeah. Texas is a very big state and very different. Everywhere is different. I've never been to the Panhandle. Sorry, go ahead.
Pulsar Fusion recently unveiled their design plans for a new nuclear fusion-powered rocket. Plans for completion by 2027. Nuclear fusion would not be used for liftoff thrust, but to power. Okay, so they're not going to shower us with radioactivity when they lift off. That's nice.
Interesting.
Yeah. Oh, well, these things, there's so many of those ideas that came out of the Walt Disney cartoon movies that they made with Von, the German rocket guy.
Von Braun?
Yeah, von Braun, and and another German rocket guy with a real heavy accent. You ought to watch them. You can see them on YouTube. That all of this high tech way of getting to Mars,
Mm.
they part of their design was a nuclear powered vehicle, and they had designed it as like it's really cool. It's like like a saucer, right?
Mm-hmm.
Where the people live. But then it had a long center column going straight down, and down at the bottom of that column is where they put the nuclear reactor.
Well, the same thing with the Starship Enterprise.
Is it?
Yeah,
Well,
yeah, you have the saucer section where the people live,
yeah.
and then that piece that comes down, and oh, what are they called? The two things
So
in back, and that's where the
so you see,
propulsion.
I'm just saying that these ideas are not new, but the fact that they've developed them and then boom, here they are. It's like, well, it's like predictive programming, like the Disney people are, Disney's part of it. Come on. They're and the weather control too. There's great weather control movies, and they're cartoon Disney things, and they show somebody at a control thing and listening to the radio, and he hears a report, a hurricane headed towards Myrtle Beach, and he gets on to the satellite and says, satellite beam, send beams to these coordinates, and then they steer the storm away from Myrtle Beach. And they were doing
Mm-hmm.
that in cartoons in the late 50s. So now, to think that they're not steering storms, well, we know they steer storms now because the Air Force admitted it.
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. I mean, there's documentation about steering and creating storms. That article that you had about using that in Vietnam,
In Cuba, they were steering hurricanes
right?
into Cuba to try to destroy their agriculture.
Polly said if we come to Amsterdam, we could have a coffee. Isn't that nice?
Yeah, that'd be fantastic.
Yeah. Thank you, Polly.
All right, let's see. I lost my place. Where are we?
Right there.
Let's see. Not sure what the context of Prester John's comment is. He's allowed to say it because the people in control think it will discredit.
Oh, he's talking about Trump,
Yeah.
making these comments and being a clown.
Oh, okay. It is an interesting to think of the people in control and who's in control. Because although Trump is very, very smart,
Mm-hmm.
I don't think that he's in control.
No. Oh, heavens, no.
So, you know, what's the motive of the people that just did this about face on the tariffs, and
Right.
playing games with our stock market? Was it simply a way for insiders to cash in?
Well, but here's the thing. I think that there are some efforts where he is in control and they're letting him be in control because it sidetracks them from it distracts from some of the other things that they need to us to be distracted from. So when he gets all, wrapped up in, gender pronouns and websites about the Underground Railroad and removing content from the Smithsonian, and we get all up in arms about free speech, we're not paying attention to all of this other economic shenanigans going on.
And another, again, it just the economic shenanigans distract us from the ethnic cleansing in Gaza.
Right. Or the biowarfare.
Right.
Yeah, exactly. The ethnic cleansing in Gaza is so tragic.
If George is thinking of suicide, he better. I'll tell you what. George will do what George is going to do. But
Yeah, you'd have to ask George.
holy news. Hello. They wanted to scare people with a pretend bioweapon to make them take the jab in IMHO. A lot of people say that. In matter of fact, there's a lot of really, prominent YouTube types that are saying things like that. It's like the no virus idea that
Mm-hmm.
going back to the Koch postulates, and they've never isolated, and they make the argument that there's no way that there could have been a pandemic because there wasn't a virus in the first place. It's all fake. That's one of the ideas. But another one, of course, is like, oh, well, it was just a flu. It was just another flu, and they made a whole big deal out of it so that they could lock us down and try out their jabs, and that's a lot of people feel that way. But when you read Adam Finnegan's book, The Sleeper Agent, you learn that the virus, or if you want to call it the virus, the coronavirus SOV2, it really made people sick. That's not to say that the jabs aren't worse,
Right.
but not to acknowledge that there was a coronavirus. I think that's a huge problem in getting across the point of the sleeper agent in the first place. So anyway, read The Sleeper Agent.
Well, I'm going to jump ahead to this comment from Prester John, tying in two of these topics. Israel arms and bioweapons companies proudly boast their hardware has been tested on Palestinians.
Mm-hmm.
And if it can happen there, it can happen anywhere.
Well, that's what's going on in Ukraine. I mean, we never saw battlefield scale drone warfare before, but now the drones are doing half of the work. They're killing a lot of enemy soldiers just as well as a soldier can.
Right.
But they're doing it from a safe position in the rear.
Well, we
operating.
did that. We did that in Iraq. You had pilots that were in Colorado that were bombing sites in Iraq.
Right, but we're talking hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of drones. This is what's the difference is, like, they are now mass producing these things, and then they keep making a better generation of them. The Russians made one that actually has a tether on it that keeps it highly powered, and so their computer can steer it directly into the enemy vehicle or wherever the target is. And the radio interference that usually could throw a drone off its track doesn't work because it's like hardwired. So, and that's just another bit of technology. The next one that they've come up with, just because I watched this, it's interesting, is nets. The Russians are they're putting like telephone poles up on each side of their main roads, and then putting nets across the top, maybe 20 feet up, so that when they drive their convoys toward the battlefield, the enemy drones can't get past the net. So that, so all the highways that they're going to use in the next battle, they're going to line them with telephone poles with nets on them, so to stop the drones. And it's a continual increase in technological back and forth.
Mm-hmm.
The benefit goes to the arms manufacturers, because not only do they get to sell what they're doing now, but then they can say, oh, here's a way to make it better, just like we were talking before.
Right.
And just keep on refining it, and somebody will finance it.
Absolutely. And somebody will get rich and somebody will get dead.
Who's next here? Prester John, the U.S. government and China cooperate with regard to medical viruses and the like. I don't think so. But Why else would we make deals with them to do gain of function research? Well,
Then, of course, this is going back some time.
I mean, well, what would your answer be?
I think that there are times that we do collaborate, cooperate. And I think that there was a time when we were financing gain of function research. Yes. I think that's already been established back before 2020, before 2019.
And why did the Chinese help us?
Well, because we were willing to help them, because, more could be accomplished working together. And we can work together in one area and still disagree or fight each other in another area. And when it comes to medical research, we both had a similar goal and worked together. I don't think that we've been non-cooperative with the Chinese forever and always.
Well, we were in the Cold War.
Right. But Nixon went to China and opened the doors.
Yes, and turned them into capitalist communists.
Right.
Oh, we like this capitalism. Very, very nice for my good.
Exactly.
Yes.
Exactly. Human beings are human beings. We are all the same everywhere.
Corky, hola. Congressional hearings, ex-FBI Chief Wray said they were the first to acknowledge that COVID could be traced to the Wuhan lab. Okay. But I like, that everybody has got these could be's and maybes in whenever they're trying to say, to imply that X or that or Y was responsible, especially with regard to China. There's always going to be like when it got me yesterday was like scientific report shows that COVID may have come from Wuhan lab in China. I say, well, why do you need a scientific report to speculate? They said may have. It didn't say anything about, it did, or within a reasonable amount of probability, we can say that it did. All it said was maybe.
But don't you think that most people miss that?
Of course they do. And that's
why they do it.
That's what pisses me off. Because it's again with the chemtrails, right? I was watching chemtrails. I was freaked out by chemtrails 10 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
Tried to tell people about it. Look at that. Look at those patterns. Look at how much of our sky is getting covered all that stuff. Nevertheless, you can't just point to the sky and say barium and strontium come from chemtrails.
Whoa, did you lose me there?
Barium and strontium.
I know what those are. I know, but how did we get on chemtrails all of the sudden?
Oh, I was explaining it.
Okay.
But that's okay. We can move on.
Sorry. We have a lot of different topics going on already. I don't think we need to add chemtrails in.
The trouble is, I want to make this point.
Okay.
In the chemtrails thing, a lot of people are excited about state legislation against banning geoengineering.
Mm-hmm.
And they point to the contrails in the sky, the contrails, and they say, that is causing us to have bad things in our soil. Barium, strontium, aluminum are the main ones. And there's definitely that stuff that's in the soil. They find it in rain samples, etc. But you can't prove that any particular thing up in the sky dropped those chemicals into our soil other than just by assuming that it must have been. So the airplanes must be spraying us. And that's the whole theory is, they are spraying us, but they can't find, maybe once in a while they'll find somebody that can make, but no, there's really no case that's been made that ties the chemtrail theory together. But it's all over the place. They've generated enough interest to get state legislatures to ban chemtrails, like in Florida, I know they have, and I think in Tennessee or other states. Okay, that's all. I just wanted to say that it's very common to have an idea pumped up without having put together cross the T's and dotted the I's and put together the scientific case that can be shown in a real setting like a legislature or a court.
Well, again, because someone's going to come away from that saying it is a fact. Yeah. They're going to ignore the verbiage that suggested it could be and just come away thinking this is a fact that has already been proven scientifically. And that way they get it into the narrative, but they have deniability because they said maybe.
And there it is. That's gaslighting.
Exactly. All right. Well, we need a lot of comments here to catch up with. So
people who were the first to come down with COVID were all actors: Gwyneth Paltrow, Robert Malone, to scare people into submission. It's true, absolutely true. Thank you, Prester. We are, and who knows what the future brings, but right now it's all looking good.
We've already,
okay. Well, let me turn it over to you, Marcia, and call up one of our
our
subscribers.
That was without warning. So let's see what Brightmore has to say about AIPAC. Go ahead.
I put in the comments leaked audio from AIPAC's 2025 Congressional Summit, in which the organization's executive director, Elliot Brand, boasted that AIPAC had groomed several top national security officials and is able to access, quote unquote, their conversations to ensure that our national security officials continue to adhere to Israel's agenda. Okay, so that's in the comments.
Okay.
Oops. Tech rollouts are rumbling from Corky. Spin launch is dead. Fusion will hide the real deal. I wanted to make a comment about we had a nice couple over for dinner last night, and he is in the trucking business.
Mm-hmm.
And, I asked him what he's been up to, and he said it's data centers. He said that they're building data centers all over Virginia.
Right.
He says, today he'll be up in Leesburg, hauling stuff for the data center, and they're huge, and they've got, guards and chain link fences and, really just high security. One of them is, I think, from Microsoft, and then, but that's really what's going on is every place is getting all of
No, Maryland is not getting data centers.
Why?
Because, and we're drooling.
We could have a data center right here at Mystery Island.
This is something that I dealt with a lot when I was working in economic development, because Virginia is eating our lunch when it comes to economic development, because they have all kinds of lower taxes, they have tax incentives, they have all kinds of benefits, and they are attracting data centers. Maryland has two issues. Number one, we have very high taxes, so the businesses don't want to come here, and now we're making it worse. Do you know that a Maryland state delegate recently moved his business from Maryland to Virginia because it was cheaper to operate in Virginia? This is a Maryland elected official, and he moved his IT business to Virginia. And it's the data centers started a decade ago, that Virginia became very aggressive in courting the data centers. And those of us in Maryland are going, wait, how do we compete? But one of the problems also is water. water, they need a lot. First of all, they need a lot of power, but they also need a lot of water in data centers. And we don't have the water resources to be able to attract them. And it's a problem for the state of Maryland right across the river. But, at every Maryland Economic Development Association meeting, we're all going, well, they are, thank goodness, not me anymore, but they're all going, yikes, how do we get data centers? Yeah. Virginia, very far ahead of us. Sorry.
Yeah.
A little bit of a rant. But here you go. We're both clicking on comments.
Will nuclear fusion plants replace the windmills in our fields in the near future? No. The windmills will just be there until they rot, and we will not get nuclear fusion plants in our fields because we don't deserve them.
I hear, and I don't remember where I heard this. I probably should be more aware of my sources, but that they're doing little mini nuclear fusion plants for data centers.
Okay. All right. There you go. That's a winner.
Yep.
I think you just tied that together just nicely.
Yep.
Yeah. Yep. And Diane Mitchell says it. I guess IT. Cousin it is IT.
All right. Well, we're running short on time, so.
Storm stealing and steering. Yeah. Yeah. Well, we read, the Air Force magazine, Air Force historical magazine. It said, yeah, they were doing that in the 60s.
That's right. Trying to make the roads impassable. They were actually trying to move storms into part of Vietnam to flood out the roads and make them so muddy that they would become impassable. And then,
right.
It would.
Operation Popeye.
Yep. Yeah. It was Operation Popeye, and then they changed the name, or maybe that was the second time. At first it was like Popeye, Mission Popeye, and then Operation Popeye or something like that. And different people wanted to take credit.
Hello, Garden Girl. Definitely a coup going on, Brightmoor, and a battle. We are just the observers. I guess Massey is the holdout. That's Representative Congressman Thomas Massey of Kentucky, who says all the right things, and I say right on. But he's in a minority in the Republican Party. He's really, he's on message with the voters, what the voters wanted in the election, why they voted for Trump. He keeps pushing that agenda, and I really like him. I'm proud to see that there's somebody in the Congress that's standing up for what the MAGA people really want. So bravo to him.
Right. I'm going to jump to this comment from Prester John. You were talking about U.S. and China.
Uh-huh.
And this is a good point. The billionaire class of the U.S. and China operate in seamless cooperation with one another. And there you go. There's the difference. It's the billionaire class.
Isn't that true? And that's what Henry Kissinger really set up when he opened up China. It wasn't, opening up China to make, the Chinese people and the American people, happy. No, it was there to allow the billionaire class to grow in China so that they could, continue ripping off the Chinese people and then pass it on to the billionaires around the world.
Right.
So that everything is run by billionaires, or also known as oligarchs, I think.
Yeah. And then Prester John says, China is also a test lab for repression, surveillance, and state-run capitalism.
Yeah. If you look back at the Fabians and look back at the British foreign policy of the 19th century, and like we do, reading the books and articles that we study here on the channel, you see that this stuff is all been planned out for a long time. And, these people that think that stuff is just serendipitous and it just happens and, oh my God, look what happened, No, if once you study history enough, you realize that there is hidden hands. Maybe not just 1 or 2 or 10, but they are.
And you know what? Recognizing the hidden hands makes everything so clear. You say, how did this happen? How did that happen? Well, that doesn't make sense. And wait, that wasn't logical. But then when you factor in the hidden hand, then you go, oh, I get it now. Imagine that. Says it was a spy on spy relationship. We supplied the virus and gain of function to China to spy on them, and they stole the technology for their military. Okay.
And there are people now saying that it was actually an attack on China by our military. That that's remember when China went into overdrive with the spraying the streets and locking everybody down and wearing the hazmat suits and everything that was so scary to us, but we weren't seeing it here, so it was kind of suspicious. Was this just filmed? Was this made up? But no. There are people now saying, well, actually, it was a biological attack on China by the United States. If you look at the evidence, it's possible to see it that way.
Mm-hmm.
So, a lot more will hopefully be revealed, and hopefully we can get past this biological warfare, but we have to recognize that it's there first. We have to do things like acknowledge Adam Finnegan's, 7 years of hard work to publish that book.
We have to see the hidden hand.
Yeah.
And acknowledge the hidden hand. I'm going to jump here to this comment about AIPAC again. AIPAC's agenda operates in seamless alignment with the regularly scheduled Western imperialist agenda. It's not some distinct movement. Yeah, I agree so much. I saw a video yesterday, and I wish I had paid attention to who she was. She was a congresswoman who Code Pink was trying to talk to up at the Capitol yesterday, and they asked her why she took money from AIPAC, and she said, "I love AIPAC. I love Jews." And they said, "So you like terrorism?" And she said, "You're the terrorists." And they asked again, and she turned again and went, "I love AIPAC." Oh my God. Oh.
I think AIPAC's been very, very good to that congressperson.
Yeah. Yeah, I think so.
Yeah. And isn't it interesting, the number of people, of Congress people that put those Israeli flags out in front of their offices? I mean, you were there, you saw
I
it.
was. It was disgusting.
Yeah, I mean, come on. This country has got to be sovereign. We can't be two countries in one.
Right.
But, I did a show about 2 weeks ago on Louis Brandeis, and I really recommend it to people. This videographer named Diego Garcia has done a series of really good hour-long shows on Brandeis, and it is, the Zionism that came in with progressivism and how that works hand in hand with the elite agenda. It has been working with the elite agenda, like AIPAC is another major arm of the elite agenda, as
the billionaire
as
class.
Prester John says.
Yeah. Well, I know we're out of time, but I'm going to put in one more comment here.
Yeah, we could go over a minute. We started late.
Oh, that's true. We did, didn't we? Yeah, we had some technical difficulties. And here's one I've not seen before, Hayes Reviews. Hello, Hayes Reviews. Hi, everybody. I love McDuffLives. Just popped in to say that my audience recommended this channel all the time. Well, thank you. Thank you for anyone who recommends this channel, and thank you for everyone who tunes in, because there's a lot of really smart people here who inform us as you do your thing, informing people about all of your research and all of the links that you're tying together. I'm always blown away at how much time you spend studying and then putting all the pieces together.
All I can say is I enjoy it. It seems to be that my role in this universe right now is to, with the help of everyone else, to put together the real story of McDuff, of my dad. And I wrote the book, published it in 2021 on the anniversary of his death on June the 6th. And it's doing well. It's easily available on Amazon for a mere $10 if you haven't got one yet. And as I've been interacting with Doug Valentine again for the past 2 weeks, trading stuff back and forth with him. And so anyway, look at that one on Louis Brandeis, and then also my recent one this past week, in which the fruit of all this research is coming together, and I can identify not only my father in the book TDY, but also General Joseph Carroll as one of the characters. And now I can triangulate who's real, who the real characters are from the Romana Clay, the concealed names
Right.
of what is actually a true story.
And let me tell you, I am blown away by that. When you were reading the book or the stuff from Joseph Carroll's son,
Yeah.
what was it, a month ago?
Yeah.
Never, ever did it occur to me that this would connect back to TDY. And now you've connected those dots. And it's just remarkable.
Yeah, so that was 1967. I did a series of 6 recent shows on Saxa. If you want to catch up with that, they're all minefields of the past month and a half or so. Well, expanding on that, we go to the cause of his death, and the idea of quick cancer, and then from there, it's just been a real journey to understand SV40 and monkey viruses, and working with Nick Petoskey and with Adam Finnegan and a number of other great researchers, Frau Hodel, to put this picture together for everybody to see, the nuts and bolts of biological warfare and how it's affected all of us.
Absolutely. And don't forget AIDS. You mentioned Nick, but
Oh yeah,
AIDS is in there too.
big time. And maybe putting Dr. Fauci in an orange jumpsuit, it's kind of a nice image to me.
He would look good in orange. Brightmore, thank you. Thank you for being here. And it is good to be back.
Well, I once again have to apologize. We didn't get to all the comments, but it's time to go.
Thank you, everybody. Have a great weekend. We'll be back. John will be back Monday.
All right. We'll see you then. Bye-bye.